Hi, and welcome everyone to a new kind of hybridized podcast for Whole Soul Mastery and Whole Soul School and Foundation. The messengers are the same. I am here with Joanna Plaza and Lee Peters, who have had some extraordinary adventures in what I would say in the hero's journey this past year. They answered the call to adventure. Many of our listeners at Whole Soul School and Foundation know some of their story. To people at Whole Soul Mastery, they'll be a little new to you. And what I would love for you guys to just first say hello and share a little bit about how you were living in the UK and that the kind of future pull that you were feeling that called you to leave the UK and go on an adventure.
Okay. Hello.
So yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
So when we last left off, we last spoke when we was in Costa Rica. We decided to kind of leave our work life behind without the expectations of coming back, which was important for me. And we did a biking adventure, and then we kind of learned a little bit about what some people call workaways, but we're now calling
Learnaways.
Yeah.
But just to come back to the question, so we had very conventional jobs back in the UK. I was working as an accountant. It's just a quick recap for the new listeners.
Yeah, the new listeners.
And Lee was working as a design engineer.
Yeah, product designer, design engineer, mechanical engineer, whatever you want to call it. One of those.
And we met in March 2020 or 2021.
Time seems to fly quick.
I know. I have to say, tracking
it
ourselves
was a year ago.
Yeah.
It was a year ago that we met, which was about 6 months after my beloved dog died. And when we met, we realized that we both wanted to travel, and I wanted to travel by bus and Lee wanted to travel by bike. So he persuaded me that traveling by bike is much more adventurous, and you see much more and you experience much more when you just take a slow pace of traveling. So due to the coronavirus situation, we picked Costa Rica as our first destination because we didn't have to have any vaccinations and PCR tests to go there. And we started traveling there by bike, and we did 3 months there, and we had many great adventures. We biked the Pacific coast because it was a little bit flatter than middle of Costa Rica. And we learned how to receive the goodness of other people. It was the first time when we stayed with many, many people for free via couch surfing or via some work stays, which we prefer to call like learnaways, because that's where we learned new skills. We learned how to live in communities. We learned how to do many things.
Wow.
And then after our visa ran out in Costa Rica, we decided to come to Mexico because the original plan was to bike South America, all of South America. That's why our original plan was to be away for maybe 5 years.
Wow.
But because of the coronavirus situation and our refusal to be jabbed,
we're not allowed to even enter some countries. So
we decided to come to Mexico because it was a open border country, no PCR tests, no vaccinations. So that's how we ended up here.
There's so many aspects to your story, and it's still ongoing. Like you're still in the journey, right? But I want to talk about a couple of things today. I want to spotlight again for new listeners at Whole Soul Mastery that there is a process that happens when you feel that call to an adventure, when you feel that call to a newer life, something different than what you've been living, and leaving the familiar patterns of what Joseph Campbell would call the ordinary world, right? Which is the kind of more the fishbowl of your experience where your world is this big, right? And there's this call to adventure what's way bigger, a bigger picture vision for your life and a bigger picture vision for you. And we talked about that. I'll put the link to that earlier podcast in the description section of this video. So if you want to hear more of their story, a little more in detail of how they met and their journey to where, I think that's the last podcast we had, where you were sharing more about making it from the UK over to Costa Rica and some of the experiences that you were having, which were fascinating. But I just want to acknowledge that many of us are being summoned to something bigger than what we've known of ourselves before. And Joanna and Lee felt that call that was literally like their old lives were kind of pushing them out, right? Pushing them to something else. But something that's extraordinary was that first you both were kind of saying yes to yourself, to traveling. You both were already doing this before you even met. And you were hearing that call, that you were like, you could feel your job was closing out, Joanna, your contract work that you were doing.
Yeah.
And you had kind of seen that time coming up ahead, and you were like, I'm going to travel. I'm going to take this next. I'm going to put away some money and I'm going to travel when my contract's up. And then Lee, you were also in this process of like, I want to bike. I want to be free. I think you were planning another trip. You'd already taken some trips for like 3-4 month stints at a time. But this was like to be something bigger, and then your life paths intersected, and it wasn't long when you guys were talking that you had this in common. And then I think it was within 2 months maybe of meeting that you literally were on the plane. It was that fast, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was really fast. Yeah, I mean, like, it kind of feels like meant to be thing. When I don't know if I believe this or not. If I can't really think if I did or didn't, but it kind of feels like it was meant to be, because even though I had a plan that I wanted to travel each country a certain way, I still want to do that in the future. But this plan has kind of been disassembled and reinvented as I've been traveling, and we've experienced new things, met different people, and it's kind of made us think about a new world of living altogether, and we're kind of flowing our journey a different way, but still for a path of freedom,
Right, because ultimately, like, I think what you guys had probably equated, I'm going to travel was freedom to you. I mean, I guess you could have said I wanted to live this life of freedom, but now you know it at an even deeper level, because of course you're living it. And you can see how, on the one hand, you guys are so free to, you don't have to clock into a job and put in your 40-hour week and, all the things that go along with that. And at the same vein, you can see where some of that old thinking of old patterns or whatever still travels with you, because wherever you go, there you are. So I'm sure you guys have been living some of that, where you're still learning new ways to free yourselves from yourselves at even deeper and deeper levels, with the triggers that kind of present themselves on the way, right?
Yes. Yeah, one of those things was our purchase of a really old van, which we thought it was a big learning curve for us to make the decisions too quickly without thinking it through properly. And we thought like we overpaid for this old thing that was falling apart.
I mean, let me give a bit more context. So like we were traveling from Cancun, kind of making our way across Mexico, and we saw a lot of different signs why we wanted a van. I always wanted to try traveling the world with a van, preferably after biking, was the initial idea. Again, one of the plans that's not set in stone. But we were seeing like kind of dogs on the street, and we wanted to be able to pick them up and feed them. And without a car, without a vehicle, it became very like heartbreaking but difficult as well.
Right. And you could see them and you couldn't help them. Motivator.
And that's kind of what triggered both of us, really. And also to think like we don't have a bike, it would be nice to see more of the country. And then I can't remember if it was me or you, I think it might be me, saw an advert for an old van, So we thought we'd contact the guy, and we went to visit in Tuxtla, which is kind of the center of
Chiapas.
Chiapas of Mexico.
Yeah.
And it was like maybe he was asking for $4,000 for this van. We kind of went down to $3,000, and we it was an old beaten up 1985 Toyota. We was convinced that it was a classic like Volkswagen, and it was worth much more than it actually was. And it wasn't until later, kind of funny in a way, that we found there was holes in the car, like real big holes that we needed to fix underneath the carpet. There's lots of things wrong with the van, and someone even told us on a Toyota group that this van was worth no more than $1,500.
Yeah.
It's just like we got played a little bit, but then in a way it's like something that we've learned deeply from.
We've learned to take more time with things like that.
Yeah, but also not to hold too much to money as well. I mean, we've lost a bit of money from this, of course, but there's no point stressing over it.
I mean, we made big improvements to the van. Like I made new curtains, we welded the holes, we took it to the mechanic who put like $200 worth of repairs into it, and then we sold the van miraculously for the third of the price
that we put into it. Yeah.
And we sold it to someone who is also into biking, and
it worked out for him.
And there was a slight problem with the paperwork, which we're not going to mention on here, but I really thought we had divine help with this. That it was a miracle that we sold it to a Mexican person.
And it worked out for him and us, not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So like the dollars may not have been what you wanted them to be, but somehow the experience, I often talk up those moments where we overpay or we pay for something that really doesn't work out, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a tuition. I call it kind of a tuition into myself, into my learning. And I think it softens any kind of wounds that we still carry about any perceived losses.
Yeah.
Because I think we do, actually, you did invest in yourselves. You did learn so much more. You might look like you'll never forget if you buy another vehicle to probably look under like the car mats.
Yeah. But that's just it, really. This type of van, because I've never had one before, and kind of from this, even though we lost a little bit of money, but it's not like we lost 10,000, we lost 1,000 or something like that.
Right.
And with the next one we might want to buy, we will think what's important,
And also during these 2 months that we had the van, it did give us a bit more freedom. Because we could stop and stay the night on a nice mountain, which we done maybe twice.
Yeah, maybe twice, 3 times. Yeah.
We spent a few nights in nature, and we could stop wherever we wanted. We did stop a few times to feed some dogs on the road, which we wouldn't be able to if we were in a bus. Right. So we still kind of had the experience of the van, and it did give us something good. Something good came out of it, even if we lost money on it.
Yeah.
And there's something so powerful about, like, what do they say? What's the expression? But leaving a place better than the way you found it. You did. You took a van that might have otherwise been turned in for parts or something, and you made it useful for somebody else in a better condition. I think that's, in a broader sense, for a lot of our listeners, we understand what alchemy is, right? It's taking something from one form and making it into another, which is not unlike you guys. Like, maybe some of us feel like that old broken down van, to be honest. That's a bit of a metaphor for how some of us, they feel like through the experience of COVID, we're on our last fumes. We may need new tires. We may need like a tune-up and a new paint job. And I think we're still in that process as we're coming out the other side, that, you had the purchase, then you found out it was more broken or needed more TLC than you had imagined. That's kind of like us. And then in this process, though, when you knew you were going to sell it, and because you decided to travel differently because you put another plan into place, maybe instead of like you said, I think the original plan was maybe 5 years, but because of COVID and lots of other factors, you may actually be returning back home changed in a different way. So there was the need to like turn in the van or sell it to somebody else. So it's amazing with all that you guys were journeying and living. And mind you, people should remember, like, they're not in like some fancy B&B, right? They're really living in these workaways, or we can talk about this, these learnaways and work stays. But you're doing all of this in every moment's guidance. Like if somebody wanted to really test their ability to listen, their intuitive guidance, their inner compass, you guys are living it. I mean, in a big, big way. And so what I know about this new earth, this new experience that we're all moving into, is that we are free to create and to uncreate. It's only been in this pocket of consciousness that it's like we make these decisions that sometimes are great and sometimes we wish we didn't make. And then we might spend a lifetime or lifetimes undoing just one choice, right? Well, I think we're finding, you bought the van and in a span of time, I don't know, did you have it for like 2, 3, 4, 5 months?
No,
3, maybe
more.
2.
We bought it in November. We sold it.
I'd say 4 months.
4 months.
About 4 months. Yeah,
I don't think
it's not too important how is that.
3 months.
3 months. That's a short period of time to have had it, but you made a choice to have an experience. And then you made a choice to like close out the experience. And if there weren't dollar signs attached to it, you'd say we had an experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, something else that, I mean, like throughout the whole experience, it's important not to have too many expectations in a way, I think, as well, because like this traveling of freedom was meant to be, like I keep saying, the idea of being able to travel slowly without a plan, you know. And I can't say how true that's actually become, because everything keeps feeling like it's a different plan now. But what it has shown us is like a new enlightened way of living. You know, I always dreamed of having my land, but never thought any, like, I don't know, I just didn't think about doing it at all. I just thought it was a nice idea. But now it's becoming reality because of the people we've met from this journey already in just under a year. And still, like I say, we might set our plans in a different timeline. Like I might travel in the future rather than now, in a different way, by my bike or even by a van. But we went from very much like the initial transition of planning to bike the world, to bike the world. Then we bought a van, thought, well, maybe we'll do it in the van instead because we haven't got the time. I don't know. And then we sold the van within 3 months, and then we're meeting people in Workaways, and just kind of, you know, it's developing in a way, you know, with a lot of experience in a short time.
And now we're actually planning to get back to Europe and start building some kind of community. So it's almost like it's best not to have a plan, because that takes away a lot of anxiety. Yeah,
and it takes away the restrictions as well. Yeah. So all I keep thinking is, if I plan to come back to a job in my head, or even if I didn't leave my job and just did a month away or something like this, I would be stuck in that routine again and again and again. It wasn't until like I told you before, I think in the previous podcast, that I had a plan 4 years ago to leave my job, but it took me 4 years to somehow finally do that. And it, you know, it was a little bit both my job making me redundant as a sign in a way, and I just decided not to look for another job. And you know,
sometimes our old lives have to kind of kick us out, that we'll finally make the leap. And because if it's there, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, if it's there, we'll keep living it a lot of the times, unless there's some catalyzing force, and a catalyzing force can be the loss of your job. It could be, you know, all kinds of things. But for you, it's like they took your job back from you, so you couldn't hold on to it. And then that made you more available to what you really always wanted to be doing. Yeah. And then what I love in the way you guys describe this, because we could have many more podcasts, because there's so many things that I'd love to dig a little deeper into. What was that experience like, and what was that experience like? So we'll have to have you back on. But it's for people who can relate to this. Does anybody feel like your old life is kicking you out, the one you're living right now? Like, can you feel that experience of like, I'm living something that I know kind of has an expiration date, and the expiration date, you might know what that is, or you might not know what that is, but it's coming because I think we're all being summoned to something much bigger and much newer than we even have the words for. But you can see it in the faces of Joanna and Lee. You can see it in like, you were already having those experiences, and you're just a few steps ahead of many people in the journey where you already felt the feelings, you listened to it, you synced up in the intersection because you were both doing similar soul work. That would be my language at the same time, and you had got a vibrational match. And then it quickly manifested in this time period where there were still so many restrictions about travel, and flights and things, and all the money. And you had to like close out, you were renting an apartment, I think.
So we had to maybe we mentioned that in the first podcast, but we had to sell everything. We sold our cars, we sold our office clothes. Sometimes we sold it for tiny fraction of the price for what we bought it for.
Yeah, it was more of a relief to get rid of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we gave a lot of things away to the lady who sends things to Africa. And we really got rid of our loads of items. Like my whole life is now about 5 boxes back in the UK with the most important things.
And the same with me, really. I mean, like this is kind of the time when I truly accept. I felt I accepted it before this, but I truly accepted the point that I'm not coming back to an office lifestyle. I mean, I might have to work for money in some degree, but the work will be something I enjoy. So technically not work. You need to think of other words for this kind of thing.
You won't be the same person returning, so you wouldn't attract the same type of work again.
Do something that you truly believe in, and there will be some sort of exchange, to help you live the rest of your life,
Right. Can I ask you then, there's, like I said, there's lots of pockets of your story that I'd like to delve into more, but I do really want to focus today, in the time we have left, talking about what a work stay or work away or learn away, what is that? Because I'd never heard about that before.
Do you want to start it off?
Yep. So many people all over the world that want to live a different lifestyle. They want to live kind of free themselves from the matrix, and they set up their own communities and their own homesteads and their own farms. And they try to live off-grid, or sometimes on-grid, but they try to live more in harmony with nature and more in harmony with the cycles of nature. And they want to live more sustainable and live more simply, but be more happy. And for some reason, this movement, I guess the natural way that this movement emerged of exchanging each other's energy. So a typical workaway place would be some kind of farm like we are here, where people grow their own vegetables, they raise their own animals, they care for the trees, and they have volunteers. I think the most common word is the volunteers. Mm-hmm. And the deal is that the volunteers work about 5 hours per day, maybe 4 to 5 hours per day, probably about 5 days per week. The kind of most common deal is in exchange for free accommodation and usually a little bit of food. So sometimes we have to pay for our own food, and sometimes we actually get some money for the food, or people buy, the hosts buy the food. But it's not just about working. So there's a lot of things like eating together. So that's learning to live in a community, cooking together, eating together, and not all the time, but occasionally learning from each other. For example, here, the guy is growing oyster mushrooms, and we never knew you can grow more oyster mushrooms from a bucket.
It's easier than I realized,
Yeah. So it's not like work where someone clocks you in and out. Like there's a certain schedule, but you can be flexible, you can move around. Like today we're doing the podcast and we know we're gonna, make up for this another day or something.
But it's not always about that. It's just, like I say, it's an equal exchange, of energy and of what we offer to what we receive. And there's an understanding between that, And the funny thing is, right next to where I used to live, there was exactly an actual big farm that was producing organic goods. And that was a workaway I never even knew existed, right next to me. And I kind of met someone from there and befriended them, and they told me what it was about, and I still didn't really understand it was a workaway until I traveled here and started doing workaways ourselves. I keep saying workaways, learnaways, I should say.
Learnaways, right?
Officially, most people know it as workaways, and there is even an application called Workaway where you register and then you find your hosts, just for people that don't know.
Yeah, and that's the reason for it. So that's where we kind of found this. So there's a website application called Workaway. If you search it, you find a sunny logo, and you can apply for different types of workaways, they call it. And this could be like the communities or even scuba diving, if that's what you want to do. And there's an exchange in some way.
Or a hostel.
Yeah. And or even just a single person living on the land. I mean, like what we are now is not exactly a farm, but it's like 3 acres and it's someone's home. And they're producing their own food, producing their own things here. And they have a nice place where you can just basically stay here the whole period of time. You don't have to walk out. You're in nature the whole time.
It feels like being on holiday or a retreat more than a work.
But the other ways we found this as well is we looked at like different groups on certain pages, maybe Telegram, and we just contacted people and they invite us to do a workaway with them, or even on if you look at local areas where you live. Again, the one that I said about, that was next to where I live back in England, is there's a website for these kind of things. You just look for the typical farm, organic farm, and quite often they have workaway options or volunteering options for them. So there's lots of ways you can actually find this. Once you know they exist, you just start searching, you find them.
And there's another website which is called WOOF. I think it's WOOF, which is like something like Worldwide Organic Farms Association or something like that. And that's another place to find that exchange where you get free accommodation and food in return for a little bit of work. But it never feels like an office week, it's you're learning to live with people, you're learning to exchange energy.
Like how to grow things, how to build things. Even some places, it depends. Again, everywhere's different. You can't say everywhere's the same for this kind of thing. So
I was going to say, so you've had some places that you may have liked more than others, like in terms of the experience that you would want again. I'm sure
to be honest, I liked everything in different ways, I mean, like back in Costa Rica on the last podcast, that was a volunteering program as well. We literally heard that through word of mouth. We didn't even go on any website for that.
And that was beautiful on the top of the mountain. It was called a Magic Mountain, and we received the most amazing, exchange from our hosts, Davey and Martina. And they were cooking us beautiful food and giving us some beautiful medicines like mushroom mixed with cacao or other things. And then we learned from them a little bit about permaculture, a little bit about biodynamic farming. We did a bit of gardening, a bit of carpentry. And for example, the other workaway, which was our longest one for 2 months in Mexico, it was more about the diving and whale watching.
So we exchanged a bit of work,
Right.
working in a shop, helping out with diving to get some adventures going. And that was more my incentive because I wanted to do a bit of outdoor adventures.
And I learned to dive because
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, for free. Well,
Yeah.
without paying for
Yeah.
that particular qualification. Yeah.
Yeah. So each workaway can give you something else, and there's so many options. Like if you prefer hospitality, then you can go and work in a hostel, on a hotel, or some kind of Airbnb place. And if you like more nature, then you can go to some forests. And there's this anything.
You can even
that
join
suits
families and just do cultural experiences if
Yeah.
that's what you want. You know?
Teach English or something.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just there's so many options. So on, like I said, it's called Workaways, so that's why I keep saying it, but workaway.com or .org. You can put a link in after.
Yes.
That's a good website to use, but you have to pay for it initially. And then, like I said, there's other ones which you can just look at local farms around you and see what they're offering would be my best option.
Right, like people don't have to necessarily take a big leap to another country. They can find it probably somewhere
locally.
Locally, yeah. Like I said, I can't believe I was living right next to one for so long without knowing. Yeah.
And even our host here, he has people from Mexico City. They just, we are in Mexico. We how far?
2
But
hours.
3 hours from Mexico City, and he just has people from Mexico City that just want to come
for
here.
a week or two.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not always the international volunteers that come here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so amazing. I think a lot of people can see what you're living. And I know there's some challenges, that stretch you to grow in journeys like this. You're like, literally, you're in the present moment all the time, listening for that inner compass, enjoying some stillness and some downtime, and then also doing a whole lot of learning, like the van situation is a good example. But there are a lot of people, I think, that fantasize or know about things like this, but then, it doesn't come to the point where they make the decision, like, I'm going to go do that. But I love how you describe that it is, for many, there's probably a lot of local options around many people that you can go explore it without having to take the bigger plunge, so to speak. And in the language of athletes, they talk about visual motor rehearsal, right? That a lot of athletes go through their routine, whether they're a gymnast or a track star or whatever, and their muscles fire and wire all the same ways as if they were actually running it and doing it. And I think that's what visioning is for a lot of us. We feel it, we're seeing it. And then when you can actually have like practical experiences where you actually like step into it for a weekend or a week, I think a lot of us may need those bridges to leave the ordinary world that we've been living. We have the desk job, and then there's this fantasy way out there, and it feels too far to access. And so the practicing in the ways that you guys, and you did even before you left, I don't know if you went on any biking trips. We didn't talk about that in this podcast. You did in the last one, and we will again. But Joanna was not a biker. You were not a cyclist, right? By any stretch of imagination. So that was kind of a point where you guys had to come together, and you, Joanna, had to say, yes, okay, I think I can travel in this way. And you had to buy actually very expensive bikes that could travel for miles a day and handle the kind of weight that you were going to be carrying and all of that.
But they're still going to be useful for us, even like, because we're not really into wanting to buy a car. We might have to at some point, ideally one that can run on renewable energy rather than petrol or diesel, but those bikes will still be very useful for us to travel around for sure, even locally.
And I think the bikes symbolized in a way a kind of lifestyle transportation, or like a vibrational transportation, because once you could focus in that it was by bike, I would imagine that other things started to fall into place in terms of your plan just to leave your old lives. It started to center around, that was your how you were going to have movement in the journey.
And also in terms of you mentioned that a lot of people feel it's too far away from them.
Yes.
So we had an interesting experience where we wanted to visit a certain place in Mexico, which is very expensive, pretty, but expensive, is full of expats. And so it's a very rich, posh restaurants, posh shops.
It's an expat location.
Yeah. And we were quite wary of traveling, and also we needed a place to stay for a week or a week and a half to actually sell our van somewhere. So we needed not to move to be able to sell the van. So we advertised on an expat Facebook group, and we said that we're looking for somewhere free to stay, but we're happy to, look after your dog or do something in return. And so many people got triggered by that. We put a photo of ourselves, and some people said, there were some comments like, if you want to travel, get a job, or you are from England, why are you feeling so entitled to stay somewhere for free? There was lots of attacking comments, which really took us by surprise.
Wow.
And then but then there was a lot of people saying, I can't believe how rude people are to you, And someone said, I think you posted it to the wrong group, because people don't know that way of traveling. And they think that all you want is just to stay somewhere for free and be a parasite.
They have a kind of wrong understanding of all this. And again, this comes back to the way they're set in their certain ways of like slavery work and all this.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, there were comments like, the pound is worth that much pesos. What makes you think that you can stay here for free? Take advantage of Mexicans. And
it kind of makes me laugh because these are the Americans speaking, not Mexicans. That's something to say as well.
Right. Wow.
They think,
and
not to be.
Right, so
yeah.
Some lady said, I wish I could go to my home country and cook and clean for someone and live in my own country. And I replied, oh, have you heard of Workaway? And she accused me of being sarcastic and cynical.
Oh, wow.
So we had so many negative comments that actually Facebook itself eventually turned off the comments because there was so much abuse going on. But at the same time,
one person trolled you as well and attacked your personal page.
Yes,
she was talking about the freedom that everyone should have in the world.
Canadian truckers.
And they started finding something negative to say about that. Which they
say, how dare we to impose our colonial thinking on the Mexicans and things like that, like completely irrelevant to the topic.
Like we're not allowed to have an understanding if we're from a country or like England, but again, she's from Poland, which
colonized past. It's amazing how it is a totally different language and it's a totally different orientation. And I think when you are becoming as free as you are and you're a free spirit, and you understand that there will be people who resonate with what you put out in the post, some will and some won't. But I think if freedom is threatening to people who aren't free.
They think they think that it's impossible.
And like I say, we don't judge anyone for what they choose to be. I mean, we are like positive to people who enjoy the work and want to work in that lifestyle, absolutely. And equal for those who are freedom. But then when we get this kind of attack, it feels very one-sided. We're not attacking them for wanting to work. We're just asking for an opportunity. But coming from that, we did get an opportunity from a lovely lady, like spiritual like us, and she was living there for a short period of time, but she offered her home to us. And
she said, just come and stay. And we didn't even have to do anything, She just said, just enjoy. She said, you can use my food and you don't have to do anything, and we stayed there for the whole week. And it was so important for us to
meet someone like this,
to rest and actually feel like we don't have to give any of our energy because we needed to rest. And this was a couple and we had some lovely conversations with them. So thank you, Natasha and Daniel. And we took some of their dogs for a walk, but it's because we wanted to, not because we were expected to. And we also cooked some meals for them. And again, because I like to cook, so I love to share food with people. So it kind of came out naturally, not like, this for that.
Right.
And so there was a good outcome, but
it was a shocking experience, but it's also,
it was triggering for so many people.
yeah, but it's, I think in a way it's good to see that, you know, like I've it kind of opened up my eyes to some people in a way, you know, like how they behave in a certain way. But
And may
yeah,
also, even for you all, just all the experiences that you have, it also attracts you to have your own place where you can set a kind of energetic tone where
exactly,
people
yeah.
are welcome and there is this energy exchange. And
Mm.
I think it's phenomenal that you put out that post, and despite all the attacks, you must have kept your energy, your frequency at a certain level that the good person who was to see that could find you. And that is,
Yeah.
that might be missed and lost on some people, but it's not lost on
Mhm.
me. You can
Yeah.
feel the like, if there was a, you know, we're talking 100% here, and it was a 90 to 95% attack rate, you still sustained your vibration to find the 5% that, like, or the 1% person that you really did connect with. It was meant for you. And maybe it was also, I don't know, maybe illustrative for her or for them, the couple that did open their home to you, to see the community that she lives in, right? To see that is kind of the frequency. I think there's a lot of these, if people would look energetically at their lives, while we're all talking about events and things, experiences and people, underneath all of that is an energy, right? Underneath your desire to go take this journey and travel was really a desire to be free and to live what freedom is to the best of your ability and what you could manifest. And I think that all these things, when everybody's attacking, that is a huge energy. And then the fact that I'm sure you felt the shock of that, but at the same time must have held a frequency of knowing there are good people. Somewhere inside you, there was a knowing there are good people, and you found that good person.
Yeah, I just felt, you know, they were trapped in their paradigms. And to be fair, I would say the percentage of negative versus positive comments was about 50-50.
Oh, 50-50.
So there was a lot of people who were like, good luck to you guys. I hope you find somewhere nice to stay. Or have you heard of Workaway? Or, you know, so there was, and there were many people who were defending. They said, like, don't bother on here because people don't know this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's why they get triggered. And also they triggered by the word free, because I said, we're looking for somewhere free to stay in return for some dog sitting or something. And that word free, where people live in a world where we all live in a world where hardly anything is free, is really triggering to people at the moment. Yeah,
it is. And yet we can move through that like you guys did, and you had a beautiful experience. And
easily, yeah. I mean, like, it's easier than you think. I mean, like, going back to what you touched on before, I mean, I told you that I've been working in an office job for 10 years, 4 years of which I was saying to myself, I'm going to quit next week or next month or next year or whatever. But I had a plan that I wanted to leave the job, and it took me a long time to do that. Because I felt I needed the money, I felt I needed a plan. But the alternate solution I found was, like, I just did a small course to allow me to teach English. And for me, I can work on my own time. I do enjoy it to some degree. So I only work the amount of hours that I can give my energy to. And that sustained me to be able to travel for both of us on a very on the base that we can live for free on work on Learnaways or couch surfing or other kind of things like this, and it does work. And if I maybe, like you said, use one of my holidays from work just to do a Workaway or travel or within or work on a farm, maybe that would have been what I needed to say, okay, I can quit and make this happen.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So I think the best way to tackle this is to practice it while you have don't get yourself in trouble without having any money, because we need it in this world, unfortunately. But find a way that works for you. And there's lots of, like, the community next to where I live, there's people that work there, get a little bit of money, and that they live there their whole lives doing that. just doing working on a farm, you know.
But also you need to be prepared for a simpler lifestyle, less
exactly.
gadgets, less buying stuff online.
Which
we've been wearing the same clothes for 9 months.
Yeah. But that's the trade-off in a way.
Yes.
You have to prepare for this. If you want a luxury life, then that's a work life for you. But if you want basics and live off the land, that for us is perfect, you know.
Yeah, it's even within a world that has been so locked down for so long, it is amazing how people still find freedom. And I think that reminds me of the documentary film we were talking about that before we got on camera, that my partner Lacey Fraser and I have been making, which is called Freeing an Incarcerated World. There's a trailer for that. But there were a lot of men who were in prison that went through some classes that Lacey taught, and many of them now know that they had to go to prison to become free, right? That sometimes we need to really let ourselves experience, am I incarcerated? Where am I incarcerated? Somewhere in my life, in my thinking, in the way I'm living right now, that might be somebody who has those either known triggers or hidden triggers, because we're not living the freedom we really want to. And it's just like a perspective shift away. It's like as you moved out of your rental, you know, and you found somebody else to take over your lease, and you're letting go and selling some of your items the way you did, and you put that plan into place, you're getting lighter. The same thing is true with all your limiting beliefs. Like, no, I have to have that jacket, or I have to have this thing or that thing, or all these things that we have, these have tos and these shoulds, and we're getting so much lighter if we'll allow ourselves to do that. We all lighten up in different ways. Some people are preppers, and some people right now are accumulating things in a very different way than you, but it's like different versions of freedom. Some people, it's all about this kind of self-sustainability and not having to live within the system that in many ways, and I'm talking like a global system, you know, like a whole system of consciousness, that we're not ever really free, actually. And so I think you guys are such beautiful examples of living it, sharing it. And you have a blog. I don't know how much you get back to it. Are you still posting in your blog?
No, we've kind of left that in the dust, to be honest. We're just living for ourselves now.
We do mainly our updates via the conventional social media, the Instagram and Facebook, because it's just easier to share those updates. And we haven't written any blogs for a while.
I mean, it's something I still would like to do, to share my experience, but right now I'm just kind of, for me, I want to live for myself, and maybe same for Joanna, but to kind of learn what we need to do, get to the point where we can build on our own land, to farm on our own land. And then once that's kind of settled, I think that would be the stage of my life when I'm ready to write about my experience.
Yeah, but if anyone wants to follow us on Instagram, then the channel is called Joylee.Freedom.
Yeah, we still put photos and minor updates on there, but not really a blog. Yeah.
Well, we hope to, because we've been, I think we've had one. Do we have 2 other podcasts? It might have just been the one. But
just one.
One, because they're traveling so much, and then we have to find good Wi-Fi to be able to have these Zoom calls. But I do know we're going to continue to tell the story, even in these kind of video blogs that tell some of the stories of the journey a little more in real time, that you might even use later to reflect in some of your stories. You'll have the videos too. So, and more people need to see the different ways people are embodying freedom, or bridging into a greater freedom, even if they feel like freedom is way far off, than just bridging into the next step of how you can feel more free. And
and we don't know the outcomes. We don't know what we're gonna do when we come back to the UK. We just have another learn away plans in Somerset, and we don't really know what's beyond that. But it's just going into that unknown with that faith that things will synchronize in a positive way for us, without being like too what should I say, maybe not hopeful, but we don't want to hide our heads in the sand from
Yes, it's a
responsibilities.
balance, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. But at the same time, we think that there's something good that is waiting for us, and the universe wants us to thrive rather than survive.
And in my experiences, the opportunities that come to us are presented within a day or a week of that opportunity. So that's kind of what I believe as well. I mean, I know we're not going to be stuck anywhere because we have the skills and the knowledge to know where to find more learner ways if we want to. Also, if an opportunity comes that where we can maybe start building on our land without having to have too much finance, then we can start early or start later. There's lots. I mean, the opportunities are endless. Really, I could go on.
It really
talking about this
is, and it's amazing. I know we all live in a world that involves money still at this point, but I think if you allow yourself to explore, if money wasn't in the equation, and some people that's very hard for them, they can't remove money, but if they can play, it's like, what would your ideal day, your best day of life, like, well, would you be on a beach, would you be in a mountain, would you be biking, would you be on a boat? You know, some people don't ever really indulge that because of the conditioning of this ordinary world, that people will stay trapped in that little fishbowl of experience until you allow yourself to ask yourself maybe just a slightly bigger question. And it's, I think it's through the question asking where we allow more goodness into our present. And we also see our triggers. I'm sure you guys have had your fair share. And we'll talk about all these things more.
Do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, there could be, or several series, right? Because you know, like they have bloopers in films. I'm sure there have been a few bloopers of the triggers that you guys had to grow through. But it's all part of the journey, and you can see in the confidence. I don't know if you would have spoken so serenely. I'd have to look back at the first podcast we did, which was more in the beginning, like the first couple of months when you had landed, and it was still all new to you. You guys look so much more relaxed. You're like seasoned veterans, and it's not even been a year, right? Yeah. So through all your experiences now, like you could be teachers of this, of how some people watching this today will be thinking, I want to live what they're living. I want that experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I can also say, I studied at university for 4 years to work 10 years without learning anything new. And within this year, I feel like I've learned so much more. And the amount of time you spend every year working compared to your free time is not a fair percentage at all. And now I'm working maybe like 20% of my time, and 80% of my time is free to learn something that I think will benefit my life more.
So amazing. It's so amazing. Well, I know I'll plant the seed for another podcast that you guys do have visions of having land and doing exactly what you've experienced with a lot of your hosts now on your own land, where other people who are watching you right now, who knows, but in a very short time, they might be saying, where can we go to Joanna and Lee's place, and experience them? And you guys have so much to share and teach, because you could say in Costa Rica we saw this, and in Mexico we did it this way, and be mentors to people. It's like we have to detox from the 3D ways. It's like it is kind of like a detoxification of people learning how to unwind the stress and just get real with themselves. I
mean, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, it might take a good few years to get to that stage, maybe 5, because it's going to be a slow progress, but that's the whole point anyway. But we want to have like a camping ground that's comfortable for people to come and volunteer, or even stay with us. And like maybe we can share experiences, or we can exchange experiences. It's just, again, the possibilities for this are endless. But with this land that we're looking at, it's it can give you so much freedom.
You can do some healing there, because so many people will need healing.
Yes, and just being in the nature, right? And in the intentions of what you'll have in your land space. I think that we're going to have that back, where the land itself heals people, just being there.
It always does. I mean, the amount of time, like just being near trees, you feel happier anyway. And like
it's just cities, so lovely here.
I mean, in cities, you don't get this kind of thing. And I still can't believe it. Like where I lived, I always wanted to go around the trees where they were, and you always had to walk a little distance to get there. I was lucky to have it near me, but in some places you have to travel for an hour before you can see something like this.
Right.
And it's so important to have land and nature around you. I've never felt calmer,
Especially in this splitting world at the moment, where some people choose to go one way,
Yes,
and some people choose to live differently.
Yeah.
Right. And
you can take a note from this dog as well, just to
oh,
take it
look,
easy.
right, exactly. We should all
That's Cosmo.
Be a Cosmo, did you say? It's
Cosmo,
Cosmo,
nice.
so great. That's the life. I mean, that is the life. Like I think there's so many ways, like you said, we can invest in ourselves, we can invest our tuition, we can invest our energy. And when people don't often stop to ask the question, is this all my life is meant to be? Is like clocking in and clocking out. And I know for some people that is something that has been a part of them that they really do value. And for some people, if it's working, yes, but for a lot of people, it may not be the experience you guys are having and have chosen. There might be some people want to live on a boat and be able to sail around and have their house be their boat, but that movement and that freedom that so many people are seeking. And
I must say, if that is the option, there are easy ways to be able to work on a yacht to get experience for this kind of thing as well, without you having to do anything. You might get paid for it even, but I mean, again, it's all these things are possible if you just know where to look, and it's just doing a bit of research, taking your time to do that, and you'll find the opportunities. You will, and not to be afraid. I mean, from what you said, I can't stop thinking about my old colleague from my work who sat next to me, about 60 years old, his whole life been working, never once been happy. He was miserable as hell, didn't have anything nice to say to anyone. And I always heard him said, I don't have a retirement, I'm going to have to work for the rest of my life. And that's what he truly believed, therefore he will live it. But for those listening, it's so easy to jump out of work. I thought I needed so much money to jump out of work. I never got that savings, and I managed to do it without actually having any money. Just a little qualification that cost me like a couple $100, or $1,000, depending on which qualification you get, but both of them work well.
But that was the awareness of, like, you knew the travel and the freedom was calling, and so that's what lined up for you as a source.
I kept attracting these people in my life.
Yes.
There's people that attracted my life who told me to, maybe you can work on this qualification, you can travel around the world working on this, teaching English. I didn't know it existed. And then other people I met telling us about like this Workaway program or volunteering programs.
You just need to open yourself to the possibilities.
Exactly, And I think soon, those last 4 years I was telling you about, I think that first year I opened myself up. And then after the 4 years, it became a reality. Yeah.
Well, that's a good note to close out on for now anyway. Exactly. You opened to the possibility, and as things lined up, it became a reality. That's true for so much of us, but it's giving ourselves permission to open a little bit. And sometimes a podcast like this can help people just shift a perspective of, like, maybe it is possible, even if they can't see a pathway, just being open to that. So it's huge. You guys are beautiful. You're lovely. I love connecting in with your energy. I thank you for joining me in this podcast. And it's to say again, the Instagram where people can find you, it's the Joylee.Freedom.
Joylee.Freedom. Joylee.Freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah.
So good. And I'll put that in the description of the video so people can tap into that link easily. And
thank you for having us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for portaling in and sharing your experiences with our audience and our listeners. And we all learn from each other. I think that's part of this, like, kind of sense of global or universal kind of community. This is coming back into the hearts of many of us. And we travel kind of through your travels. So it's beautiful that we can share these things, and this is another kind of exchange that we're going to all come to value more and more. Even if we can't be in Mexico where you are, we can experience it through you. And as an energetic universe works, it's really beautiful. So Thank you for the gift of your stories and your wisdom and your learning and your Learnaways. And we'll come back again together soon. So blessings, everyone. Find us at Whole Soul Mastery and at Whole Soul School and Foundation on your favorite social media platforms and also on our websites. Blessings, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.